Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive. Today we're tackling something that might sound a bit dry at first, but trust me, it's anything but. We're diving into the world of zero-based budgeting.
Zero-based budgeting sounds intense.
It might sound a little intimidating, right? Like $0 left over. But it's actually about being intentional with your money, making sure every dollar has a job to do.
So it's not about deprivation, more like strategic spending.
You got it. It's about taking control of your finances and really understanding where your money goes. No more wondering where it all went at the end of the month.
Okay, I'm intrigued. So how does this zero-based budgeting thing actually work?
Well, the basic idea is pretty straightforward. Every dollar you earn has to be assigned a specific purpose.
So if I make, let's say, $3,000 a month, I need to account for every single one of those dollars.
Exactly. You're essentially creating a plan for every dollar before the month even begins. Think of it like putting together a puzzle. You have all these pieces, your income, and you have to fit them perfectly into the picture, your expenses.
So where do I even begin? Do I need a spreadsheet, a fancy app?
You can definitely use those tools if they help you stay organized. But honestly, you can start with a simple pen and paper. The first step is to list out all your sources of income.
Okay, that's easy enough. What about expenses?
That's where the detective work comes in. You have to track every single expense, big and small. Rent, utilities, groceries, transportation, those daily coffees, subscriptions you might have forgotten about, everything.
Sounds like a lot of work.
It can be, but it's worth it. You might be surprised at what you discover about your spending habits. Once you have all your income and expenses listed out, the next step is to start allocating your dollars. This is where you decide how much you're going to spend on each category.
So like if my rent is $1,000, I put that down first.
Exactly. And you just keep going down the list, assigning amounts to each category until you reach zero. No more, no less.
What if I have some money left over?
That's a great problem to have. It means you have extra to put towards your savings goals, pay down debt faster, or maybe even treat yourself to something special. But the key is that money has a purpose, even if it's just going into a savings account.
I see. So every dollar has a job to do. This really does seem like it would make you much more aware of your spending habits.
Absolutely. No more mindless swiping or impulse buys. With zero-based budgeting, you're making conscious choices about every dollar.
Okay, so let's say I'm really trying to save for a down payment on a house. How does that factor into my zero-based budget?
That's a great example. You treat your savings goal like any other expense. Figure out how much you need to save each month to reach your goal and allocate those funds in your budget.
So it becomes a non-negotiable part of my spending plan.
Exactly. That's like paying yourself first.
Yeah.
And the same goes for debt. If you're working on paying off credit cards or student loans, those payments become essential expenses in your budget.
Makes sense. So is there a right or wrong way to allocate your money? Like, should I follow certain percentages or rules?
You know, there are some general guidelines out there, but ultimately it's about what works for you and your financial goals. Some people use the 50-30-20 rule, where 50% of their income goes to needs, 30% to wants, and 20% to savings and debt repayment. But you can adjust those percentages based on your own priorities.
So there's flexibility in the system. That's good to know. What about unexpected expenses? How do those fit into a zero-based budget?
That's a great question, and it's something we all have to deal with. The key is to build in a buffer, a little cushion in your budget for those just-in-case moments.
Yeah.
You can create a specific category for unexpected expenses, or you could just slightly overestimate some of your other categories to give yourself some wiggle room.
Smart. So if my car breaks down or I have a surprise medical bill, I'm not completely thrown off track.
Right, you're prepared. And that's one of the biggest benefits of zero-based budgeting. It helps you feel more in control of your finances, even when life throws you a curveball.
It's like having a game plan for your money. Okay, I think I'm starting to get this, but I have to admit it still feels a little bit daunting. Any advice for someone who's just starting out?
Don't get overwhelmed. Remember, you don't have to be perfect right from the start. Start small. Maybe just focus on one or two areas where you want to improve your spending habits. And remember, it's a process. You might need to tweak your budget as you go along.
Trial and error, right. What about tools? Are there any apps or resources that can help with zero-based budgeting?
Absolutely. There are tons of great budgeting apps out there. Some popular ones include Mint, Y&A, and Personal Capital. These apps can connect to your bank accounts, categorize your transactions, and even help you set and track your financial goals.
So they can do a lot of the heavy lifting for you. Makes it a little less intimidating. As we've been talking, I've been thinking about how this zero-based budgeting concept could be applied to other areas of life too, like our time and energy.
That's a really interesting thought. Could we approach our day with the same intentionality, making sure every hour is allocated to a specific purpose?
It makes you wonder if this way of thinking could lead to a more fulfilling and productive life overall.
Definitely something to ponder. Well, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive into zero-based budgeting. We hope you found it helpful.
And maybe even a little inspiring.
Remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about making conscious choices with your money so you can achieve your financial goals and live the life you want. Thanks for joining us.